Welcome to the Dr. Donna podcast, here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. Innovative, evidence-based recovery that helps to identify intergenerational trauma, allowing for freedom and embracement of the healing process. Today, episode 110, Asking for Help. And now your host, Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee.
I'm Dr. Donna, and welcome to my podcast. I was talking about aging a lot for the last few weeks, and one of the next ways that I want to talk about aging, because we all do, but it's not really the subject, is learning to ask for help. How do you live your life on life's terms by yourself? And, we've had an uptick of drug, alcohol use and abuse because of the pandemic, for one thing. But it's always been there. I mean, that was one of my specializations all those 50 years was addiction. But we've also had an uptick of suicide. And, here's the thing about any kind of mental illness or emotional distress, or just, hey, how about life on life's terms? Sometimes we run into problems that just seem unsolvable to us. And I know because of what I've gone through in life, but also because of the many people I've talked to, is that there's never a time in a person's life when they are more present than when they are in the most distress. That's when you are the most present. When you are in, you're going through one of the most difficult things in your life. That's when you're the most present. And that's one of the reasons that people don't even think about reaching out for help. Because they're so present in their own life, in their own body, that they can't see outside that there's someone out there that can help them. And, asking for help in our society, we are individualists. It's like we can handle everything by ourselves. Thank you very much. This has been our motto. I still hear this. It's like we can handle everything by ourselves. We don't ask for help. And so what happens when a person reaches their, the end of their rope, so to speak, is that they don't know what to do. And if you're in a lot of distress and you're sad or you're angry or you're, going through a lot of emotions that seem insurmountable, or you're facing a problem in your life that doesn't seem to ever have an end, or the death of someone that is really special and important to you, reach out. Now, because we're the most present at those times, we're also really vulnerable at those times. And so I want to talk about how to choose somebody when you're asking for help. Okay? And who to ask. It's like some people who are a member of a religious organization or a spiritual organization will ask, say, the pastor or the reverend or the priest or the bishop or somebody, ask them for help. Well, I understand how people do that. I understand that that's part of their religious training or part of their faith. But I also know they're not trained in how to give that help. Sometimes they have a lot of wisdom. Okay? So if you're going to ask, a member of the clergy for help, let me just tell you this. Ask for Go to somebody who's older, because even if they don't have training in how to really help you, at least they have some wisdom because they've lived a while. It's like you don't go to, the 30-year-old. Sorry, 30-year-olds. I was 30 as well when I started my practice, and it still kind of makes me cringe that I thought I had something to offer. Well, I did have professional training, okay? So at least I had that. But wisdom comes with life. Living. Anyway, asking for help from a clergy is not a bad thing. You just need to be careful. And like I said, the first thing is to look at who you're asking and say, why am I asking this? Am I wanting them to save me? Because they're not going to save me. I want to know, do you have something to give me? Like wisdom. Or if they're professionally trained, they'll know how to do that in a way that's very useful. I've I've known of situations where that wasn't very helpful at all and end up making bigger problems than they solved. There are many guides in this world, and when you are looking for help, when you're asking for help, when you need someone to help you through a situation, or you need some advice, you need something you can't do on your own, it's like they're guides. There are guides for everyone, okay? So, like somebody, depending on where you live and what your beliefs are, go to a shaman, or you go to a doctor, or you go to a psychic, or you go to a therapist, or a counselor, or you go to your best friend. Okay? Now, when I said that, people need to either have some years behind themselves so that they have some wisdom, or they are professionally trained, so you make decisions about your guides based on what you think you need. Now, you're the one who can say what you need. Okay? So let's say you've gotten a DUI. Driving under the influence. Every state calls it something different. But there are DUI laws all across the states. And so you get a DUI. The first thing that most people do is they get a lawyer. Well, if that lawyer knows his or her limitations, they know that his or her limitation ends with the law. So their job is to tell you, here's what we're going to do to try and either mitigate this DUI or, get rid of it or whatever it is. That's a legal issue. Now, if you have a good lawyer, I think, Dr. Donna's opinion, is that if you get a DUI, they know that maybe you have a problem. And so the other thing they realize is that they're not equipped to handle that problem. That's not their training. And so they might say, and now here's a list of therapists that I'd like you to go see so that when we go to court, we'll be able to say, okay, this person says that you don't have an alcohol problem, or they say you do have an alcohol problem and that you need treatment, not jail. Okay? But they're not the ones who do that evaluation because they haven't been trained. They could say, go to AA and see if that works for you. Because if it does, that'll help you in your life, and it might help you in your case. But the thing they can't do is to make that determination themselves. And it needs to be made. I know for a fact, after 50 years of being a therapist, that nobody walks into my office or calls for an appointment because they're having the best day of their lives. Okay? I usually would see them on one of the worst days of their lives. Okay, maybe the worst day happened 2 days ago or last week, but now the aftermath and what they need to deal with, now they call, it's not, it's like they're in distress. And I know they're in distress. Or they wouldn't be calling me. So, that's, it's like, you can see where in that situation, you have two guys. You got one to lead you through the legal situation, and you got another one to help you understand how you got to that legal situation in the first place and what you might be able to do so that that doesn't happen again. Now, this, I've also lived long enough to know that there are quote unquote guides, gurus, whatever, out there that really take advantage of people. They get people when they are the most distressed, when it's one of the worst days of their lives, and they take advantage of them. How do they do it? Usually financially. Well, if you pay me this much money, I can save you. I have known these people who take advantage of people who are not qualified, who are not educated, who don't have a background to even be there in the first place. I've run into these people. It's astounding to me, really astounding to me, that people will actually sell the, goods to people that are in the most distressed and the most vulnerable. And it doesn't work. It makes it worse. And then, over time, I have experienced this where, it's like people have gone to these quote, it's like gurus where, well, I am the one who will save you. I don't have any credibility. I don't have an education. I don't have, license. I don't have anything. I'm just here to tell you that I can. And, when you are really vulnerable, when you are really in distress, and you think your world is ending it is probably going to end the way it used to be. It's going to be a new chapter now. It's like these people who would take advantage of you, they're there. And like I said, I've seen these individuals who've been taken advantage of, and they're in my office saying, well, I went and saw so-and-so and, I don't have much money now, or now my life is worse than it was, and what are you going to do different? And so I think, okay, well, now you're actually thinking about who am I going to invest in to try and help me through this? Those are the questions you want to ask people when they are saying they're going to guide you through something or they're going to help you through something. You want to say, what makes you think that you can do this for me? Show me your creds. Don't tell me you can just do this. You can just save me. You can just help me. Things will be better, because I don't believe you unless I can see that you have some kind of credibility behind you. And I don't mean that your wife thinks that you're great. or that your friends think that you're great, that's not going to help me when I'm in situations that need true guidance and direction. Now, like I said, one of your guides, one of your helpers when you're asking for help might be your best friend. And maybe you just need a listening ear. Okay? Like, maybe you got your feelings hurt by your kids. Oh, that happens. I mean, you can't get your quote, feelings hurt. And what that means is that, I was boundaryless at the time and you said something and now I feel pain. Unless they stab you with a knife or something, it just means that you don't have boundaries at the moment. But sometimes, life on life's terms, there are moments of pain and sadness and shame and guilt and all those fun things where you just go through stuff. And it doesn't mean you're boundaryless. It just means that I care that much and this is happening and now I feel sad and pain. And so it might be just that maybe my adult children are moving away. Okay? I might not need a professional. That might be something I could talk to my best friend about. Someone that could guide me through it. Maybe they've been through it. Maybe they don't. But if they're my best friend, maybe they know my kid. And so they know about my relationship with my kids. And they know that this is sad and painful. Okay, so then I can talk to them about it and that person becomes a guide. There are guides. Last time I was talking about Margareta Magnusson, who wrote The Swedish Art of Aging Exuberantly. Right now, she's a guide for me. I like her stuff because it's hysterical. It's very funny. And so, for me to go through something like this, that is not a crisis. I'm not in a crisis. I'm just aging. And, that has little crises along the way. Like, hurting my shoulder when I'm asleep. How does that happen? But when I can think about that and find humor in it, that's not easy, but I did. That I can find humor in it. I can thank Margaret for that or Margareta. I can find amusement in that and I can thank her. So she's a guide for me right now. So I started out by talking about how, the pandemic created some new issues for us. And, if you're in conflict with your spouse or your partner, it's like, get professional help. Because obviously, if you could take care of it on your own, you would. You would have. You wouldn't be in crisis. When people are in conflict in a relationship and they try, it's like, go ahead and try. It's like, but most of the time, those conflicts come from deep-seated issues that arise in childhood for each of them. And, I was a marriage counselor too. And I saw people who were in relationships with each other. And when I heard what they were upset about and what was going on in their relationship, I would point out to them that actually the problem here is that you've got ghosts that when you're communicating, it's like these ghosts, which are your family members, your parents, your grandparents. It's like these are all in the middle. You two, need to recognize each of your own and, clear them out. And once you get them cleared out, then you can have communication that's cleaner. That's more about the relationship. That's more about what it actually is that you're talking about. And it then won't seem so overwhelming. In that moment, I'm being a guide. The work starts when we do it, okay? When we start cleaning it out. It's like an engine. If you don't clean it out, you're going to have problems, okay? But knowing when to reach out and ask for professional help is when you've tried and you keep ending up in the same place. Doing the same thing over again, expecting different results is the small definition of insanity. Okay? Doing the same thing over again, expecting different results. Well, if you are doing that, you probably need to reach out for some professional help. Now, I happen to know that because of the pandemic and everything that it created for us, finding someone will be hard, but it's not impossible. I say start with people you know, and you ask them, have you ever been to therapy? Have you ever been in marriage counseling? Have you seen a psychiatrist? It's like, who'd you see? And they might say, no, I've never done that. I think I'm, lucky so far. Say, do you know anyone that has? Because I have found my best medical people, my best therapists, because, therapists have therapists. It's like word of mouth. If you say, if I trust you and we have a friendship, we have a good relationship together. If I trust you that much to have a relationship where I am giving time, attention, and energy, I can ask you, who did you see? Where did you go? Guides can be like teachers, therapists, counselors, clergy, your next door neighbor who's an older person. I don't know if you want them to have all the information about you. One of the things about choosing a therapist or a member of the clergy, especially a therapist, I can't say this about the clergy, is that there are laws that govern us, okay? One of the most important ones is that we have to have an education and training in order to get the license. But one of the most important ethical considerations for us is that everything that happens in the office is confidential. We have privilege, and that privilege it's the same privilege as an attorney. Is that what you say and what goes on here stays here. It can't leave. Can't leave the office. It can't leave my brain. Can't. Has to live there forever. The only time that confidentiality does not exist is that if a child is being abused, we have to report it. If an adult is being abused, and I mean an elderly or challenged person who can't take care of themselves, they're being abused, we have to report that. Or if there's been a capital crime, meaning that you've killed somebody, we have to tell on you, okay? And those are the only three things. Most people don't come in with those, oh, I'm beating my child. It's happened, but most of the time, that's not what they're there for. Or I'm taking advantage of my elderly mother, or I just killed somebody. And if you do, then I have to report you to the authorities, and you might be back sometime, but not for a while. Everything else is confidential, and that's the law. So we are held to that law, and that's just law. That's the way it is forever. Now, clergy, not so much. I mean, it's not the law. 12-step programs, it's anonymous. Alcoholics Anonymous, Al-Anon is anonymous, Gamblers Anonymous, all those anonymous. But like I used to tell, still do, some people that are in my practice, and I've used 12-step programs for to help when people are going through issues. I say, do not talk about anything that you don't want the world to know about in those meetings. Because even though they're anonymous, they're not legally held responsible. So talk about, if you're in AA, I guess you're an alcoholic. So when you say you're an alcoholic, you don't need to tell them all the things you did. You could talk about your feelings. You can talk about, what your hopes and dreams are, what you've lost, these kind of things. But you don't talk about the things you did. I remember, it's just a little story. Like, I didn't really know this guy, but it was a story in 12-step program that got to me. And that was that this guy, his sponsor told him when he was doing his 9th step that he needed to write this letter to a woman that he had assaulted when she was, at a frat party at college. So he did. He wrote her. He said, I'm really sorry I did that. And he went to jail. Now, that had been like 40 years ago. And of course, she needed to get healed from that. But, she was in a state, and it was in a state where the statute of limitations, for some reason, didn't apply. So I say, even with your sponsor, be very careful about what you talk about. If you have done something where you've broken the law, you need to talk to the lawyer, or except for those 3 things, if you want it to be confidential, you talk to a therapist, a psychiatrist, a therapist, and if they don't keep it confidential, sue them. So, guys, please ask for help when you need it.
Thank you for listening to the Dr. Donna podcast here on the Experience of the Soul podcast channel. This channel is made possible because of listeners just like you. If you would like to support the channel with your tax-deductible contribution on an ongoing basis or through a one-time gift, head over to experienceofthesoul.com/support. The Dr. Donna podcast is copyright 2023 Dr. Donna Bevan-Lee, all rights reserved. Our theme music is composed by Dave Croft and used with permission. The Experience of the Soul podcast channel is a production of 818 Studios.
Hey friends, Sean here, your Experience of the Soul producer. I want to take a moment to tell you about something truly exciting. The SoulWorks online community, created by your host, Cynthia Alice Anderson, and available on the Mighty Networks app. If you're looking for a place where you can explore your spiritual path, connect with others, and grow in a meaningful way, then this is for you. SoulWorks is so much more than an online community. It's a safe, inclusive space for spiritual exploration, self-discovery, and personal transformation. Inside the community, you'll find everything from uplifting spiritual studies to soul-centered growth practices, meditations, affirmations, and so much more. It's a space where you'll always be supported and never judged. The best part, membership is free. You'll have access to powerful resources, inspiring content, and a supportive group of like-minded people who are all on their own unique spiritual journeys. And if you're ready to dive deeper, there are premium options available to enhance your experience with a live Monday night talk series and extended, deeper meditations. If you're seeking a place to connect, grow, and nurture your soul, we would love to have you join us in the SoulWorks community and see where this journey can take you. Visit my.soulworkscommunity.com today.